Hi, today's video is going to be all about how to get unstuck in your art practice. My name is Jen Sanders. I'm an abstract painter, and I created a guide a while back that was 7 ways to get unstuck in your art practice. A lot of these steps or ways are actually action items. So it's practices that you can do, actions you can take, things that you can do to kind of help yourself get out of like a creative rut. We all get into these times where we feel like we just can't think of the next idea, or we can't think of the next color palette, or whatever the case may be. And this guide and these 7 steps are meant to help with that. I hope what you find in this video is very useful to you. I would love to hear your comments on it after you've watched the video, and if you would like to subscribe, I'd appreciate that, and definitely hit that like button because it helps me be able to make more content for you and for other artists and help other artists, which is my entire goal. All right, so the first way to get unstuck, or the first practice that I do that's been really beneficial to my art practice, is a sketchbook practice. I do recommend a good sketchbook practice because really all it is going in and being able to test freely, test out new techniques, test out things that you've seen on the internet, test out whatever it is you want. If it's a color palette, it gives you the freedom of being able to try new things and being able to get in there, and there are no boundaries, there are no limitations, and there's also no real risk involved. You're not going to mess up your sketchbook, right? A lot of people refer to these as art journals. There are lots of resources out there that will kind of guide you in how to create a good sketchbook practice. Number 2 is one of the things that I've done quite a lot, especially in the beginning, is repurposing old artwork or reworking old artwork. If you found old art from a while back and you want to try to rework it, maybe it felt like it was missing something, but it's been a while now, so you want to try new colors, or you just want to kind of paint over it completely and start over. That's a good way to get your creativity flowing. Me personally, I have an entire series called coveralls, and one of the things that I do with my coveralls is when I have a painting that I just can't seem to get to work for me, I will do what I call wreck it. What wrecking a painting means is basically just throwing a ton of paint at it, marks, going crazy with it. And then once that dries and once I've gotten that to a point that I like it, I go on top of that and put more strategic lines and marks. What that does is it allows me to create something that might be a little more outside my comfort zone. It might be a little less strategic. It's a lot more movement based and action based, and it allows me to kind of do something that I don't normally do. Most of my paintings and most of my work is well thought out. I think very deeply about composition, and these coverall paintings allow me to be a little bit more free in my practice, and they always end up turning out beautifully. I would try something similar to that. You can do this by reworking studies that you've done in the past. You can do this by reworking entire paintings that you've done in the past. You can do this by taking a painting that you've made and putting like collage work on top of it, using papers and fabrics, and seeing how you can work those things together to get it to become something completely different, something new. The third way that I would suggest you kind of getting your creativity going is to try a whole new craft. If you're a painter, try drawing. If you're a painter, try a different type of medium, or try adding some elements that you don't normally add to your paintings. If you typically work in oil paints, try some acrylic paints or watercolor. Go into your sketchbook with oil pastels or charcoal or something like that. Try something new. And if you want to actually completely step out of your comfort zone, there are lots of other crafts that you can try if you like crocheting or needlepoint or something like that. It's really just a matter of taking your focus off of the thing that you're thinking way too deeply on and putting it more onto something that might actually generate some more creativity in, say, your painting practice that you didn't realize you would get from looking up images and how-tos on how to do a completely different craft. The fourth thing that I suggest that you do is to go to the internet. I know that seems like such an obvious thing to do, but what I mean by this is to go to the internet, find inspiration, collect said inspiration, and create a mood board. Mood boards can be very, very inspiring. It's a collection of pictures and artifacts that you can use to keep in your visual sight as you're working through some of your artwork. And what it'll help you do is kind of remember, oh, I'm working on that color palette. Oh, this was the inspiration. A number of things that you can do is take inspiration from websites like Unsplash, Pinterest, of course, Etsy, other artists, wherever you can find it. Take some of those images, whether you have to take screenshots from your phone or your computer, or actually download and save the photos. You can take those into like another program. I typically use like a whiteboarding program. You can arrange those in a way where you can reference them later. A lot of artists will also keep a mood board in their studio or their space, a live mood board. Print out these photos. Take photos of your own as you're going through walks or whenever you're out in the wilderness, even in urban areas. If you're getting inspiration from textures and all kinds of different places. If you don't have a space to do that, you don't have the time, the internet is always the next best thing. So my suggestion is to always keep that in the back of your mind. So you can do this by keeping boards on Pinterest or a number of other places, or like I said, the digital whiteboard, or creating even something in your sketchbook. The fifth thing that I would suggest that you do is to play with color. I know for me, color is always my first inspiration. I build a lot of my series, my works, everything off of color palettes first a lot of times. But if nothing else, you can use color in your search to inspire you when you're in a creative rut. My very first tried and true method is color swatch books. My favorite color swatch book is called Palette Perfect. There's a volume 1 and there's a volume 2. Both of those have been a huge inspiration for me and my artwork. There are a lot of photos inside of these books. They're very, very helpful. I can't recommend them enough. They're wonderful. It's very much like a mood board in book form. There are a lot of other color mixing books too that can be very inspirational that you can find on Amazon. I have one called the Color Mixing Bible, and there's several others, so you can look into those as well. One fun exercise that I really like to do is to go on, say, Pinterest or even Unsplash and just type in a color. Let's say I'm looking for the color coral and I'm looking for inspiration with the color coral. If you just type in the word coral, you're gonna get a mix of inspiration for the actual color coral, but then also a lot of really good inspiration for coral that you'll find on coral reefs and in the sea, all kinds of things that sort of correlate with that. You might get home decor inspiration, which might get you into different color inspiration and exploration. You might end up diving deeper into other color palettes that go really well with the color coral. So you can take that as far as you want to, but any of these websites, you can kind of just type in simple phrases that will help you along with your color searching journey. And then play around with it and see how hard it is to mix a color from scratch or from other colors that you have in your palette. That's one other way that I like to get inspired by color, is to go in and do a lot of like color swatches and color samples to see how well I can do with mixing my own colors. The sixth thing that I love to do, and this might be just me, I'm not sure, but I love to create minis. I take little 2x2 or 2x3 pieces of paper, usually watercolor paper, but it can also be like little scraps of canvas or whatever you can get your hands on. You could even use printer paper if you know that's all you have, and create little tiny mini studies. For some reason, it's just a lot of fun because you have to be kind of meticulous with your strokes and not overdo it and not overmix your colors. But you're paying a little bit more attention to it, and it's also just kind of neat to kind of try something new and to try to get a whole painting onto a tiny little piece of paper. I always have these tiny little pieces of paper just handy. I use them to swatch colors. So this is where I will swatch a color that I just purchased that's already pre-mixed, or if I created a new color, I'll swatch it on these. But I also really love to take these little pieces of paper and create little mini paintings on them. So let's say I'm swatching this color. I might also take another little piece of this and start to kind of paint another little blob on there and then see if I can build on it. You end up with a lot of tiny little paintings, but they're kind of cool. You could even make a little key ring out of them or something and hang them up on your wall in your tiny little painting gallery. Number 7, and the last tip, is to take a break. I know that sometimes it's easier said than done. I know that I use creativity as my main outlet for releasing anxiety and energy that I have kind of built up. I know it's hard to take a break sometimes, but sometimes you just need to relax. Take the time to binge watch your favorite TV show. You never know, you might see some kind of artwork in the background that inspires you on a scene of a movie or something. I know I've done that before. Go outside. Connect with nature. Try to go on, a bit of a treasure hunt. If you're outside, take some pictures of different things, zoom into things. Try to just relax and get yourself into a state where you're not necessarily overthinking your creative practice. Listen to music, meditate, do anything that's going to kind of help you calm down. Do some breathing exercises. One of the things that I really like to do is to almost take like a moment, like a meditative moment. Your rest time doesn't have to be for weeks. It can be just for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, especially if you feel like you're in a rut. Sometimes it's just nice to take a breather in between whatever next thing you're trying to chase after. Definitely get some rest because sometimes your brain is just tired. Like I stated before, I created a guide a while back just to help other artists get unstuck in their art practice. You can download this guide. I will share the link below. It goes into a little bit more detail and I'm happy to share it with you. If you found this information helpful, hit the like button, and if you want to see more content like this, definitely subscribe to my channel. I post videos on a pretty regular basis where I like to help other artists in any way I can. So comment below if you have any questions or if you have any other suggestions, and I appreciate you watching today. Thank you.